Today we are going to look at how to find the constant of proportionality. So before we start solving for the constant of proportionality, you're going to need to know its definition, which it's pretty simple. All it is the ratio of x values to y values. Notice that I said ratio. We talked about this the other day, and we know that ratio can be written several different ways. The way we're going to use today is a fraction. So our formula is k equals y over x. And the way we write that is like a fraction. So k equals y over x. And we know that that fraction part is the same thing as divide. So that works out perfectly. Now, you're probably wondering where in the heck this k came from. That's a mathematical term for constant of proportionality. Yes, I do know that constant of proportionality starts with a c, but for mathematical terms, we just use k. Now we are going to look at how to find the constant of proportionality from a table. So remember that our formula is k equals y over x. And we're going to do this for each value. So in this case, on the first one, our y value is 12 and it's over our x value of 3. Well, 12 over 3 just gives us 4. Do the same thing for each value. Y over x, and 16 over 4 just gives me 4. Y over x, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. And last one, 24 over 6 gives me 4. Now, if all of these match, that means k equals 4. So my constant of proportionality for this one is 4. And when we have that, that means that our graph or our table is proportional. That is going to be important, and so make sure you write that down. Let's do one more example from a table. And we're still using our formula k equals y over x. And we're going to do the same thing as we did last time. Y over x. And 10 over 2 gives me 5. Next one, y over x. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Next one, 19 over 4. 19 divided by 4. That's not 5, so I'm just going to put an x. Now, notice, do all of our k's match this time? They don't. So that just simply means that this is not proportional, which is there is no k. So for k we put none, and we would write non-proportional. So on our worksheet later on, you're going to have to write and tell me what my k is and whether it is proportional or not proportional. So make sure that you do both tonight. So we just looked at two tables and they were pretty easy. We had to find our constant of proportionality, or k, for those. We're going to do the same things on our graph, and I promise they are just as simple. You are still going to use k equals y over x, but you're probably wondering, how in the heck do I get my y and my x? We have to remember what our axes are called. So our axes are going from side to side is going to be x. Okay, so that's our horizontal one. And our vertical one is going to be y, because remember, y always points to the sky. Now, in order to find my y over my x, I have to first figure out what my y value is and what my x value is. So notice I drew these little green lines right here and right here, and they match to a point on the axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out where this dot matches to. So it goes over to the 4. So my y value is going to be 4. And I go down to my x, and that's going to give me 2. So for my first point, k equals y over x, which is 4 over 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now I got to go to my next point, and I'm still trying to find k. So I'm going to go over to the side, which I notice it is 8. And then I have to go down to my x-axis, which gives me 4. So my y value was 8, and my x value was 4. And we know 8 divided by 4 is 2. Since these two match, I know that my k is 2. And since I do have a k, that means my graph is proportional. Take a minute to write this down in your notes. Let's look at another graph. Remember, the first thing we have to do is we have to look at our formula, k equals y over x. And to figure out what our y and x values are, we have to look at our x-axis. So my horizontal axis is going to be the x-axis, and my vertical one is the y, because y always points to the sky. Now I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to my point. In this case, I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to go over to my y values and down to my x values, and I'm going to fill those in on the graph. So my y value for this one is 3 because it's pointing at the 3, and my x value is going to be 1 because it points at the 1. Then I'm going to go up to my next dot. It points to my 7, so my y value is 7, and my x value is 3. Let's set this up and see if it works. So on my first one, I got k equals y over x, which was 3 over 1, and 3 divided by 1 just gives me 3. Then I look at my second one, k equals y over x, and 7 divided by 3. Does that equal 3? It does not. So since these are not equal, that means that there is no k, so k would be none. And since it is none, that means it will be non-proportional. Remember, on tonight's homework, you are going to have to write both of these. So I'm going to ask you for k, and I'm going to ask you whether it's proportional or not. Just a few things before we wrap the video up. We know that k means constant of proportionality. Even though it starts with c, we know that in mathematical terms we use k. And when our k's match, we know that we do have a constant of proportionality. So you're going to have to tell me k equals a number, and that's just the number that the constant of proportionality is. And when we have one of those, we know that that means our graph or our table is proportional. And so you have to write that. Remember, I'm looking for both the constant of proportionality and for you to tell me it's proportional. But what if my k does not match? That just means that we don't have a k. So you would write k equals none. And when I do not have a constant of proportionality, that tells me that it is non-proportional. And you are going to have to write both of those. Any other questions?